Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Minnesota Røkkr Modern Warfare 2 Home Series Q&A. I am Ashley, aka MiDNiTE, Director of Content here at Minnesota Røkkr and version 1. And today with me, just like old times, Brett, we're sitting down to chat about Røkkr, bringing Call of Duty to Minnesota. It's like we're in a time machine, but it's also the future. So
just like the good old days.
Yes, just like the good old days. Brett Diamond, COO here at version 1. And today we made, in my opinion, an incredible announcement. Obviously, I've been from Minnesota my whole life. Love Call of Duty. I'm passionate about CDL, competitive Call of Duty. And, CDL released their schedule today, kind of detailing all of the majors, who's hosting them, what's the schedule for the year look like. And we were able to follow that up with something that I've never seen in Call of Duty. And I would even want to guess, like, in other franchise leagues for esports, like, are they doing things like this too? But do you want to just maybe talk a little bit about what are we doing? What is a home series? Because 3 years ago, a home series was the equivalent of a major now. How is it different now? And what's our plan?
Yeah. So the basics of the event, we'll be hosting 2 live events during what is the qualifying stages of the Call of Duty League season. The first one will be April 1st, which is during the Major 4 qualifiers. And the second is May 6th during the Major 5 qualifiers. And essentially we're having 2 teams come to Minnesota, or a neighboring state. We're still figuring out exactly where in our market we're going to have these events. At least one will be in the Twin Cities, but we're looking at some options in neighboring states for the second one. So stay tuned on that. But 2 teams will come in for there'll be a 1-day event. Røkkr will play each team once. They're essentially regular season matches, right? They count in the qualifying standings. We really appreciate the teams that have partnered with us to be a part of this event, because obviously we couldn't do it without them. So for the April 1st event, we'll have the Florida Mutineers and the LA Guerrillas coming. And then for the May 6th event, we'll have the Boston Breach and the London Royal Raven. So pretty excited to welcome those teams to come in for these events.
Yeah, it's going to be such a fun time. I mean, a lot of these qualification matches, especially as the year goes on, they start to mean more and more. Like, qualifying into the winner's bracket of a major is so incredibly massive. And a lot of these matches that lead up to that, they're regular season matches. They're important to every piece of this, and to, try to make them on the most even playing field possible for the teams, bring them to land, bring them to Minnesota, put on a show for the fans. That's just something, I mean, I'm biased because I work here, but definitely like super stoked on that, because it's more good times. It's more connecting with the community and the local fan base here in Minnesota. So as we're looking at it, as we've announced, I was looking at Twitter and looking at kind of what the reaction is. I think mostly the reaction is, oh my gosh, this is hype, this is great. Like, the players have been asking for more in-person events, fans obviously too. But what do you have to say to folks who are maybe wondering, like, well, why is it only for these matches? Or how did it work getting the teams that we do have coming in? What's your kind of opinion on that?
Yeah, I'll talk through the whole process a little bit. I mean, it really started shortly after we hosted Major 2 last year, where, while it was unfortunate that Røkkr only played 1 match, we were just all so blown away by just those vibes in that venue for that 1 match against Optic. I mean, that's one of the coolest experiences of my career, just how hyped that crowd was and how loud they were. And it was just, I mean, I know all of us walked away from that like, holy shit. It sucks that we lost and we only got 1 match at our own major, but man, that crowd was amazing.
It's awesome.
And from there, we started to really think about, okay, that crowd showed up like that for 1 Røkkr match, right? What can we do to create more opportunities for Røkkr fans to come to events, for us to create that atmosphere for our fans, and fans of other CDL teams down the road as well? And it's interesting. We started thinking initially, we had some ideas of doing something like this with a smaller audience, a couple hundred people. And, the more we thought about like, all right, we can go bigger based on what we saw from our fans at Major 2 last year. That event sold out weeks in advance. Like, we probably could have filled a venue twice that size. We really wanted to experiment with like how much, what do fans want from a live event standpoint, right? This is a little bit different than what fans have had in the past. And my view is, like, majors as they currently are will always be a really important part of the Call of Duty League season for any esport and even traditional sports, right? You're always going to have your tentpole events that are super important, and are important from a league standpoint. They're important for the host teams from a branding and a growth standpoint. But they're not necessarily events that you can host every year, whether just pure numbers, right? There's 5 majors this year and there's 12 CDL teams. So there's more teams than there are majors. Some teams like to host these events every year. Some teams will host them occasionally. Some teams may prefer not to host them, right? Everybody has their own, every org has their own strategy around it. For us, and we've talked a little bit about this in the past, but for us, the right cadence for hosting events that are that big is probably every 2 or 3 years. We think that's the right rotation, but we don't want those to be the only times that we host events, live matches for our fans. So collectively, our staff here probably spent about 6 months really drilling down into what could this concept look like? What could it look like to create live in-person matches around the qualifying stages? And we gamed out a lot of different scenarios of how it could work, how many teams, how many days. And we really landed on this being the right cadence of 2 teams come in. It's a 1-day event. We actually looked at scenarios where we would try to have the 2 teams also play each other. Unfortunately, the schedule didn't quite work out that way, just, with which teams were interested in coming. And then about a month and a half ago, we brought, we had been talking with CDL for a while about it. And then about 6 weeks ago, we started talking to the other teams about it. And most teams were interested or supportive to some extent. And as we got further along, certain teams had real interest in coming and real interest in partnering with us. And as we really got down to it, the 4 teams that are coming were excited and raised their hands and said, yeah, we want to partner with Minnesota to create a cool event. That, like, we honestly hope that this is something that is shown to, like, if fans embrace it and it works, like, frankly, from a business side standpoint, and we can talk more about that as we go. This is something that, could be done by other CDL teams in the future. Like, that's my hope, is that we show that this is a good concept and fans embrace it. And ultimately, I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and I'm super stoked about it. Obviously, during the first 2 years of CDL, the pandemic ended up happening. That shifted a lot of things, but I think, what you want out of Call of Duty League is as many in-person events as possible. And I do hope that, what we're trying to do here, we'll be the guinea pig. We'll go first, we'll start it up, but I do hope that other teams, adopt that strategy. And speaking of other teams, you're talking about teams that agreed to try this with us and do it with us. Boston Breach is one of those teams, and we actually have a guest from Boston Breach here that's going to join us on the stream. We'd love to kind of chat. Maybe we answer some chat questions together. So we've got Murphy, the president and co-founder of Oxygen Esports, who's the parent company to Boston Breach. Murphy, are you on with us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for
Murph,
coming.
how are you? Good to have you.
I'm doing well. Very exciting day, obviously, for you guys. Thanks for leading the charge on this. I think schedule reveal is always fun, but I think adding this level of spice and new programming certainly made it a memorable day for the entire league.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, we're super stoked about it. And I mean, I was talking to Murphy a little bit before we started. Boston Breach, obviously one of the newer teams in CDL, came in last year. I really like what you guys have been able to do from like a branding and kind of event standpoint with how you guys are trying to activate. When you I'm assuming Brett just gave Murphy a call and was like, hey, we want to do this thing. What do you think? What was your kind of reaction to the proposal?
It was, it was almost like you guys are ahead of us, but it's something that we had been mulling over, having our team in front of a live audience as well. I'm actually sitting with our facility, Helix Esports, right behind us, where we had challengers last year. And it just seems like a match made in heaven. Again, I think Call of Duty has always so focused on live events and just offering different types of programming. And again, getting to these majors is tough. Committing for 4 days is tough. So giving the fans something a little bit more bite-sized, digestible, and also looking at kind of the origin of the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty League is there was supposed to be the home away schedule. And again, as esports and sports are slightly different, I think that this nuanced approach of not every game is home and away, but offering some type of that in between events, it's brilliant. And we're just really excited to pilot it with you guys.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. And that's something we've been talking a bit about is personally, I think that what we're doing here is what the local franchise model probably would have evolved into from an event standpoint had COVID not been a thing. If we were now in our 4th season doing live in market, live match events, I think it would have evolved into something very similar to this, again, alongside majors. And to Murph's point, this is something that is more repeatable. And that's something we've talked a lot about too, is the ability to, candidly, like what it takes from a resource standpoint to put on a major. We can do 4 or 5 of these types of events and be able to engage with our fans multiple times throughout the year, which is one of the exciting things.
Yeah. And it also, I think as we move forward, I do hope that other franchises, like this model and want to do it themselves. I mean, activating in your home market is that sports that will go towards esports. I do think that, the regionalization of this thing has its hiccups, right? Because anywhere anyone can watch this match to be like, to fight for their team and to cheer. But to put on top of that, the localization, I think it makes a ton of sense. So I've been glued to Twitter today as much as I can be, just kind of checking out the reaction, seeing what people are saying. We've had some people kind of look at this and say, well, why is only Minnesota doing this? Why aren't other teams doing this? Isn't this unfair if Minnesota gets to play their qualification matches on as even of a playing field as possible? Why doesn't my team do that? Why can't or aren't they doing that? And is it, a competitive advantage to have most of the league games played online versus at an in-person event where the teams are right there, right next to each other? So I would love to hear. I'm gonna put you on the hot seat, Brett. Hashtag competitive integrity. This is obviously something that we considered as we brought this up. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, sometimes progress comes in small steps, right? And we've been, I would say, either the most vocal or certainly no organization has been more vocal than we have on having more matches on LAN or in-person events in play during the regular season, before, at various points when decisions have had to be made about the online format. So it's always been important to us to have as many matches in person as possible. We know that's important to the players. We know that's what the fans want. But we're not, the reality is that's not just like a switch, that's not a switch that is going to be flipped and magically, like, the whole regular season qualifying part of it is just going to instantly be on LAN. Like, that's, I wish that were so, but it's not. So, from a competitive integrity standpoint, that's something we take really seriously. And several of us with the organization, including myself, have spent like literally hours and hours on calls with CDL, working through kind of different permutations of how this would work to ensure that it is competitively balanced. And at the end of the day, as long as the two teams that are playing are on an equal playing field, which you would argue they will be more so when they're both in the same venue than they are if they're in different places, pinging from different locations. So from that standpoint, like, I think all of the, we're certainly not afraid to, hear feedback from players or the community on any part of this, including how's it going to work. In terms of why Minnesota, at the end of the day, we think this is something that hopefully we can prove this works, and then other teams will have the opportunities to do it in the future. The only reason it's just us is because we were the ones that raised our hands and said, hey, well, here's the concept. We're willing to, take on the expense, go secure the venues, et cetera. And again, we're very fortunate and appreciative that we have the partnerships with, with Murph in Boston, with London and Florida and LAG, who are going to be a part of these events this year. So, I think it's certainly the kind of thing where we want to see this be successful for many reasons. And if it is, it serves as a template for other teams to do in the future. And, we'll learn a lot from it either way.
Yeah, there's definitely, people are talking a lot about like home field advantage, home crowd advantage. I think that's
loud. It's loud for both teams.
It's loud for both teams. And then also, if you're, an org in the CDL, I think you look at this as like, hopefully something that you want to do. Murph, let's go back to you for a sec. So someone on Twitter asked, Jacob Hale on Twitter asked, so they're asking ROKKR, do you expect other franchises to do their own home series next season and going forward if they don't end up doing it this season? So from your POV, obviously you breached partnering with us on this and agreeing to
investing in for the long term. And again, partnering with you all and the rest of the teams that are coming in. I think it's going to set the groundwork for what should be a program that can spread for numerous franchises across the coming years. And I think, again, as we grow this property, it's an entertainment property at the end of the day. And the players, there are the home field advantage concerns. At the same time, there's players everywhere. And I look at this more as an NBA as opposed to an NFL, where people are following the players as much as the orgs, if more in some cases. So again, I think it's going to be a lot of our fans out there as well. And I know the players love playing on land. I go back to, I think this offers an opportunity not only for regional, for the teams, but also it's just gaming is social. And I think some people say, yeah, it's a global property. I still think people want to get out and meet and hang out with their friends and go to an event that resonates with what they're doing, like just playing Call of Duty or enjoying video games. And so we're certainly interested in hosting one of these. Again, we're going to learn a lot with you all. And again, I think I give you all a ton of credit because bringing the teams together to start partnering on this. Again, the league is only going to be successful if all 12 teams are rowing in the same direction. Again, there's going to be battles. There's going to be rivalries. There's going to be all types of trash talk and banter back and forth. But at the end of the day, we're all partners in the enterprise with Activision to drive this property forward and coming together at a base level to align on giving a better property and more entertainment and more experiences to the fans should be something we're all focused on. So again, you guys coming up and innovating on this is super fun. So again, we figured we'd raise our hand and jump right in because it's something that we want to do in the future.
Yeah, I love that. And I got to give you guys credit because even from the first time we spoke after you guys came into the league last year, there was just this spirit of let's find ways to work together and collaborate and build this thing together. And that's so important. And, like sometimes it's, you have these conversations like, oh yeah, let's find ways to collaborate. And then, sometimes things happen and you find ways to do something awesome. So it's been really great to see this come together as a partnership with you guys as well as the other teams. And I mean, it's such a good point too, that like as teams in this league, we can't just sit around and wait for game publishers to solve our problems from whatever they may be, right? Like we need to take ownership of building a local fan base, creating live events and creating opportunities for fans to engage, whether it's, not just in person, but in whatever form they want to. But if, it's really like this isn't going to grow itself, right? Like we need teams to partner, like Murph said, and work together to create new opportunities for fans to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I think to me, it's like, in my opinion, not speaking as the ROKKR guy standing behind me, but just as Ashley, each team should be very interested in doing this, or at the very least seeing like the results of what we're about to try to do.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like one of the things that I find really interesting about what we do and what everybody in this industry does is what's right for one team might not be right for another. And whether that's hosting majors or hosting events like this, or different things that, how hard you lean into different areas of the business or content. Like every team can kind of do what makes sense for them. And that's, and that's okay. Like every team doesn't have to do things the exact same way. Like we don't know exactly what's going to work or what's going to be successful. Like our philosophy here is we try a lot of things. The things that work, we do more of those things. The things that don't work, we do less of those things. We obviously wouldn't be hosting these events and putting a lot of time, energy, and resources into making them happen if we weren't confident they would be successful. But at the end of the day, this is a fundamentally different live event product than what has been done previously in esports. And I'm excited to see what happens. And I do think fans will embrace it. I think the fact that we had, 2,000 fans at our major, sold out every day, just, and again, we talked about it earlier, but just the energy in that room, for our match against Optic really is what I think inspired all of us to try to create more live event experiences here.
And not only that, but I mean, we've been running watch parties, right? For ROKKR matches, almost all of them, which is pretty crazy in the 3 years that we've been in season. So yeah, just more touch points with the fans, more good vibes. That's what we're all about. I have actually one other thing I wanted to touch on too with other teams being interested in this. Obviously, as a content focused person, like I'm looking at this for all the content angles as well. Like if I'm another team's content team, I'm wanting to go to Minnesota, have our players collab with the other players, make some unique content that, isn't just something that goes up on CDL's channel, but goes up on the org's channel. I have a question from the chat. Benny in the chat, shout out Benny. How is casting going to work? Will there be live casters or is there some other method of doing it? I know that this is like a super in the weeds question, but if I'm thinking about buying tickets to this event, that might be like cool to like a little fun fact to know, or just kind of know how it's going to work. Because obviously you have the casting team who's doing the live broadcast. And if we're just one match in that live broadcast, how does that work in venue and what's it going to be like?
Yeah. So we're looking at two options and this might get a little bit nerdy. So, but Benny asked the question. So we're going to answer the question for Benny.
So we're going to answer.
So, we're looking at two options. We had talked with CDL about whether like the main casting, the main guys that do the casting could come for these events. And that wasn't an option for a number of reasons. So we're looking at two things. One is that the casters are casting, it's the regular casters, they're casting from where they are. And because of the wonders of technology, like the signal gets mixed and it gets brought into the venue with such low latency that it's like they are actually in the venue. That's option A. That's the ideal scenario. We're going to test that though. And if that delay is too much and that impacts the fan experience, what we're prepared to do is essentially create our own in-venue production, right? Where we're doing what you would normally do on the broadcast. We're just doing it separately.
Put me on the desk. Let's go.
We might.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
I've tried casting before. It's very hard. I can't do it.
Yeah, it is.
I accidentally swear. It's not good.
So in that scenario, we might have separate casters that are doing the in-venue show, which is really, I mean, that's similar to what you would see in traditional sports, right? Like if you go to a traditional sports event, you're not hearing the hearing and seeing the same thing that you see on TV
in the stadium.
But what's important to us is making sure that the fans that are in the venue have an amazing experience, and it will look and feel a little bit different than what you're used to at majors. Like the production isn't quite that level, and it shouldn't be, right? It's a fundamentally different type of event. But we're picking venues that we think are going to be really awesome and have a great vibe. And we think we're going to put on an awesome experience for the fans that come out.
I'm glad you said that at the end, because someone in the chat just asked, Graham asks, is the venue going to be Mystic again? Can we say the venue?
We can not yet say the venue. We are close to announcing the venues. It may be, there may be two different venues for the two events. So we're close on that. We'll probably announce that sometime in the next couple of weeks. And we'll be doing, you can sign up on our website now, rokkrtickets.gg for the pre-sale. and then tickets will go on sale, or the pre-sale will start next month. And really want to emphasize to, to our core fans, like, get in at the pre-sale time, because the event last year sold out pretty quickly.
Pretty quick.
And we're in a smaller venue this time. It'll be probably about 1,000 seats. So it has the potential to sell out quickly. So definitely want to make sure that if you're passionate enough of a Røkkr fan that you're watching this live stream, we definitely want to make sure you get your tickets early.
Got it.
The rest of the world thanks you that these are in April and May and not in early March in
Hey, we got
cold
you.
winter Minnesota. It's not much better here in Boston, but the extra couple months will go a long way for the sun.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely. I think our last event it was snowing when people came through.
Yeah. Well, I think it's actually the same week. The first of these is the same weekend as Major 2 last year. But Murph, do you want to talk about Major? You guys are hosting Major 3, right? Do you want to talk about what's going on there? And we'd love to see some Røkkr fans make the trip to Boston as well.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. I think it's actually it's fun and full circle going back to the partnership between groups working together. I think you guys were kind enough to let us activate in conjunction with you all at your major last year. So again, we're hosting Major 2. It'll be February 2nd through 5th in Boston. We're very close on the venue. It's one of those things where I'd have to put an asterisk pending league approval. So I can't say where we are yet, but it's going to be an iconic venue in downtown Boston. And it's going to look like a lot. It's going to have all the bells and whistles that a lot of other majors have. We're going to be doing a challengers event that's very important to us. So there's a bit of a surprise and spoiler there. But one thing that we really do want to encourage, and again, we'll be reaching out to the team individually, but specifically to Minnesota's, we want to see more of CDL fans there, and we want other CDL teams to come into our market and activate amongst us. Again, there's so many opportunities where just because we're hosting an event, not everyone there is going to be a breach fan. And so it doesn't make sense for them not to be able to get merchandise or not be able to interact with their favorite team because, hey, they may not interact with the breach. So why not give them another experience? So what we really want to do is try to at least expand or revisit the way that other teams get to activate in other HMAs. And obviously it's a little bit sensitive with some of the league rules, but again, I think we're going to try to open it up as much as possible. And so we're just really excited. Again, I think we've, last year was a sprint for us getting the team launched and getting into the league. And it was a ton of fun and we were blown away by the reception. And this year we're really excited to just welcome everyone who welcomed us so willingly last year to a city that's probably just as cold in February as March. So I guess I can't give you that much of a hard time because it's going to be,
I was going to say
it's going to be beautiful, but it's going to be, it'll be a little bit nippy.
I've always wanted to go to Boston. I've been to New York City, but I've not been to Boston yet. I bet in the winter there it's really pretty.
I love Boston. My wife's from Boston, so we go out there typically over the holidays. So
nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, gosh, we're at time. Is there any kind of last words, last bites?
Are there any other questions from the chat or elsewhere that we didn't get to?
This is actually a great question, I think, from Dave, but I'm actually curious about this myself, and it's okay if we don't know it, but are all of the online matches going to be broadcasting into the venue? So like if you're coming in to watch, Røkkr play breach,
yeah,
are you able to come before or after, depending when we're at in the day? Like, can you watch the other matches and make it a party?
Yep. So we do know the times of our matches. So these, on the days that we have these events, will be the first match of the day and the third match of the day. So the central time I believe it's 2:00 and then 5:00. So then that match in the middle, we will show in the venue. We also have programming that our team will create throughout that whole day of an experience. So, we'll find the right balance of, like, we'll show the live match action for for that middle match that's not being played from Minnesota. And then the rest of the time we'll kind of probably switch between programming in the venue that's specific for fans of Røkkr and the team we're playing, while also taking some of the desk segments on the broadcast.
Got it. Love it. It's gonna be a good time, man. I'm just I went to my first Call of Duty event in 2011. So
wow.
So it was in Orlando, Florida. It was very hot. But no, I love the vibe, man. I love connecting the community in this way. We have one more question from the chat. Well, Derek said Boston is legit. So shout out to Murph, got a fan in the chat. Let's go, Derek. Harmon asks, are you still looking at Chicago as a potential event location, like you mentioned in the August press conference, or has that been shot down by the league pending potential expansion? There's a lot of assumptions going on there, so we'll clarify.
Yeah,
What are we
yeah,
looking at as, like,
yeah. Couple things there to unpack.
Yeah.
As an organization, we're definitely looking to do more things in Chicago. It's obviously a huge market that's right down the road from us here. And I don't know anything more than the chat here does about, whether there'll be another team in Chicago someday, but with a market that size, it's obviously a very attractive one. So we plan to do some things in Chicago, just over time to engage with fans. We've done some watch parties, for version 1 when our Rocket League team and our Valorant team have been in big events. I think we did a watch party in Chicago too for one of the CDL majors. We're not going to do one of these events in Chicago, but we are looking at, there's a possibility we might do one in Wisconsin. So we're looking at some options.
I really like the options that we're looking at.
Yeah.
I won't say more than that.
And I will say, like, we're obviously announcing 2 events today. And part of that was, we had a total of 5 teams that committed to come here. Obviously the 4 that we're announcing today. Seattle had also offered to be a part of this, and we definitely appreciate that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to, the dates didn't work out for a matchup to get another team to come. But we haven't totally ruled out having more than 2 events if there are more teams that end up being interested, and we can work out the logistics and the scheduling with CDL and all that, because there's a lot of moving pieces there.
Yeah, I mean, it's no easy feat to travel teams around as these qualification matches are happening, but I don't know. I'm obviously biased. I work here, and I think this is a great idea, but I think teams should want to do this, and I hope that this starts to become the norm. I do hope that we, as more teams see the opportunity here, I think that would be really cool to have all teams involved. Nate asked,
Nate, we're not changing the name. Don't worry.
There you go. Nate is asking, is the heavy lifting done only by ROKKR and the teams for these, CDL just approving it, or is CDL providing support?
This is primarily a team-driven initiative. Obviously we're partnering with the teams that are participating in the event. CDL was very helpful in working out how this would fit into the schedule. Obviously, us playing 2 matches in one day is a departure from the standard structure. They also had to figure out, making sure that the teams that were traveling in didn't have other matches that weekend, so they didn't have to worry about playing more than the one they'll play with us. So CDL was very helpful from the standpoint of figuring out the scheduling dynamics. But in terms of the lift on the event itself, they're providing some things, the PCs and that sort of thing. So CDL has been a good partner on this as well. But the execution of these events, these are team-driven events, and they should be team-driven events, right? That's part of the local, building a local presence.
Yeah, I love it. How much are tickets? When did they go on sale? Where do I find them? How do I make sure that I'm able to get in this one day event?
Yeah, so we'll be rolling out more details on that over the next couple of weeks. You can register for the pre-sale, like I mentioned, at rokkrtickets.gg. And I think I saw Allie drop the link in the chat. So thank you, Allie. The pre-sale itself will be sometime in November. Ticket pricing, the GA tickets will probably be in the probably $35. We're still figuring out some of that. And then we'll have VIP tickets that are at a higher price, but will be worth it. There'll be a lot of cool stuff that comes with both types of tickets.
Definitely getting that. I mean, I know I might get lucky and just get a VIP ticket because I work here, but I want if I gotta buy it to get something cool, I will.
Well, that's part of it too. We want to create an experience for whatever it is that fans are interested in, right? Like some fans, want to come and just like sit and watch the matches, and that like they're there to watch the competition, and that's their purpose. Some fans come because they want the overall experience of the day and to be entertained, and we want to create a lot of, we want it to be sort of a festival atmosphere. It won't quite be the that level that we had at the major, because this is a 1-day event, not a 4-day event. But the places we're looking at for these venues all are, they've got like a lot of bars around, and just like we'll be doing things pregame, we'll be doing things postgame. It's going to be an overall awesome experience.
Heck yeah. Love it, man. I'm stoked. I mean, obviously I'm biased, from Minnesota, longtime Call of Duty player and competitive Call of Duty fan.
Yeah, you kind of have to be stoked. It'd be bad if you weren't.
True. Yeah. If I wasn't excited, like you guys would know, it's a terrible idea, but I'm excited to just, I don't know. I love Call of Duty events, and the fact that they're right here in the hometown, I think makes a ton of sense. So I think that's going to do it for us. I don't see any more questions popping up here. I got some hype here from Camp Lynn Lake, says hugely excited, hoping to see some after events in town as well. See y'all there. So this guy's ready to turn up. He wants to go to the event and the after party.
Let's go.
So hey, you never know. We got some time to plan. Remind me again, what are the dates for the tickets that are coming up?
So pre-sale registration's open now, rokkrtickets.gg. The pre-sale itself will be in November. We haven't set that exact date yet, but we'll be announcing it soon. The event dates, April 1st, that is coming to that event will be Florida Mutineers and Los Angeles Gorillas. And May 6th, we've got Boston Breach and London Royal Ravens. So we got a little rivalry match for Afro.
Yeah, there's gonna be.
He was excited when we told him that.
What the players say when you told him?
Yeah, I mean, they've been sort of aware of this for a while. We started talking. Obviously, we had significant turnover in our roster, so. But we started talking to the coaches about this, and obviously, Jake and Joey were instrumental in like how we shaped this whole thing. We started talking to to Dan and Brian about it, the coaches, several months ago, and have picked their brains along the way. And they obviously kept attached in the loop. And then I think really by the time we signed this roster, we were pretty far down the road on this concept. So we obviously let them know what's happening. We talked about it in the press conference when we signed those guys. So, we only teased the details a little bit there. But we hopped on a call with them yesterday to really talk through kind of more details of what we're going to announce today. And yeah, they're pretty excited.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, shoot, I'd be excited. I am excited. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you again, Murph, so much for coming on and chatting. Excited for the Boston Breach event.
Yeah, shout out Boston Breach. Thank you for the partnership, Murph. We definitely are excited to work with you guys on this event and many more things to come.
It's a pleasure. Keep pushing the status quo. It's going to be fun to do this together. So excited for this and a lot more.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah. Sounds good. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to check out rokkrtickets.gg to get ready for the pre-sale sign up for that. And that's it, man. We're signing off. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you guys next time.